Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. How many of you out there would love to have an opportunity to ask incoming SEC chair, who is ultimately in all likelihood going to be replacing asshat Jay Clayton as the actual new SEC chair? How many of you would love to have a chance to ask Gary Gensler questions? Any sort of questions. It could be anything. It could be, Gary Gensler, if you could be one animal, what animal would that be and why? Like, you could be that, or it could be about Ripple and XRP. It could be that too, just whatever. If it were me, I'd probably ask the animal question. I think that's a little bit more fun, and who doesn't like a little fun in life? It's a little excitement in an otherwise dull day. And so I mentioned a few times over the last few days that Gary Gensler's hearing is going to be on March 2nd, 2021. I'm not seeing from politicians, and maybe I missed it, I just haven't seen any sort of tremendously negative responses that would make me suspect that he won't get approved. And usually outside of that, the individual just gets approved in these types of situations. So I think that's more likely than not. But what's interesting is there's an attorney who is a member of the XRP community, and he's getting together with a couple different United States senators for a couple different reasons, which I'll share with you in just a moment. But the teams that work with the senator, one of them wants him to compile some questions to send along, which may ultimately get asked during this hearing. And it could be on whatever topic, but if it's coming from the XRP community, it's going to have to do with Ripple and XRP. So no guarantee that the questions would ultimately get asked, but there is this connection here now where an XRP community member who is an attorney has been asked to compile questions, send them along. And so if you ask a question, there is a chance that it actually could reach Gary Gensler, which I thought was rather fascinating. So I'll talk about that in just a moment here. Also, I want to highlight this. Here's a new story from Crypto Newsflash. The Zakhanov case. Ripple refuses to disclose SEC settlement documents. I do want to be clear at the outset here, though. I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say, all right? I'm just an enthusiast in the XRP community, and I like to talk about crypto-related stuff and make YouTube videos purely as a hobby. That is all that it is. So who is this attorney in question? It is none other than John Deaton. I'm sure to this point, many of you in the XRP community have become quite familiar with him. And I always want to give credit where it's due when people are contributing to the XRP community. And I want to prop those people up who are contributing to the XRP community on my platform here on the YouTubes. And so I encourage you, any of you that are on the Twitters, go follow John Deaton. If you're a fan of Ripple and XRP, you won't regret it. He is at John, John, his first name, then his middle initial, which is the letter E, and then his last name, Deaton, Deaton, and then the number 1. Go ahead and check it out. He's got some serious stuff in the works here from a legal perspective. And so he wrote the following. Questions to ask Gary Gensler. Dear crypto community, on Monday, I have a meeting with the legal staff of Senator Sheldon Whitehouse to discuss the writ of mandamus pending in Rhode Island federal court. And so many of you are familiar with this. This is a legal filing that I believe the date was, I think it was the first of the year. I believe it was January 1st. He filed a writ of mandamus. And I might kind of butcher the explanation of it since I don't have a legal background, but I'll do my best to explain what he was seeking. Basically, John Deaton recognizes the absurdity of the SEC today declaring that XRP is a security. And so John Deaton in his mission, he's not out to protect Brad Garlinghouse, Chris Larson, Ripple, the company. He's basically just saying, not that he's against them, but he's basically saying, the idea that XRP in 2021 is a security is absurd. And he filed a massive document that he spent somewhere in the neighborhood of a week just typing up furiously, which is no small task. And he put this thing together and he filed the writ of mandamus. It's a legal document. And effectively what he's asking is to have a court force the SEC to do its job. And I hope I'm not butchering the explanation of this too bad. Again, I'm sorry if I am. I don't have a legal background. I'm just kind of recalling from memory. But the purpose of it, my understanding, was just to get some sort of enforcement so that the SEC has to go back, and ultimately the goal would be to have language removed from the SEC complaint stating that XRP is in fact a security, because clearly today it absolutely is not. Another reason for this is to get the ball rolling, because once you file this, it sets a timer. And after 6 months, if John Deaton wants to, and I think he will if this isn't cleared up by then, he can file a class action lawsuit against the SEC. So that was another reason that this went forward. Now let's proceed with the rest of what John Deaton wrote here. Also, I've been asked to submit potential questions for Senator Jack Reed to ask Gary Gensler at his confirmation hearing on Tuesday, March 2nd. This does not imply that the questions that I submit will, in fact, be asked. Time is very limited for each senator on the committee, and most of them don't even ask questions, but use their time to give speeches. Senator Reed, however, does take his role serious. I welcome any suggestions for questions. There are brilliant minds out there, and our collective minds are much better than mine alone. But please offer only serious questions that a senator might actually ask. Well, yeah, for sure. That's why I asked a serious one at the outset of this video. If you could be one animal, what would that animal be and why? For example, he continues, for example, he's not going to ask Gensler if he will open an investigation into his predecessor, Clayton. Yeah, and he's referencing Jay Clayton, the former SEC chair and current asshat. And then John Deaton continues. As an example, one question that I intend to submit is as follows. Acting Chairwoman Allison Herron-Lee has written that the SEC will no longer accept conditional settlement offers, while Commissioners Hester Pierce and Elad Roisman have written that conditional settlement offers are necessary and important in achieving fair resolutions consistent with the SEC's mission. Mr. Gensler, where do you stand on the issue of conditional settlement offers? Yes, indeed. And so acting SEC chair, who, and it's funny, like the way this goes, man. So Jay Clayton, the asshat, he moved on. Then Elad Roisman took over, and then he was just acting SEC chair. Then he was replaced with another acting SEC chair, Allison Herron-Lee. And this acting SEC chair, Miss Lee, or Mrs. Lee, I can't remember, one of those, she changed a long-standing policy of the SEC, which makes it the case that there cannot be a settlement that includes what's the word I'm looking for? That includes some sort of exemption, I believe is the word I'm looking. Yeah, it can't include an exemption that would allow, in the case of Ripple, for example, its settlement cannot include an exemption that would allow XRP to be sold by Ripple. If the other part of the settlement is an acknowledgement or agreement that they'll pay a fine for selling XRP when they shouldn't have as an unregistered security. And so, if you think back to like Kick Interactive case, which I've talked about on this channel, they were selling their KIN token, and ultimately what went down is they were allowed to continue selling their KIN token, even though they were found guilty. It was like a slam dunk case. But this policy change, even if there's a settlement, it will not be the case under this policy that Ripple will be able to continue selling XRP. So they could still file for an exemption if they settled, but then if it's declined, that just wrecks the company, because they do need XRP is at the core of their business model. It would just ruin everything. And so there's not going to be a settlement outside of that. And that's why this is so important. I think that's an excellent question that John Deaton would be asking there. And then he wrapped up this thread by stating, I will likely post this tweet several times over the next several days in order for as many in the community to offer suggestions. I appreciate any input. And so if you want to ask a question, go ahead. And, there are a number of serious questions I actually might ask, but in going through the thread here, like some of them, there are at least a couple I thought were really good ones, including John Deaton's question that they're already being asked. So I don't know if I'm going to have anything to contribute. I'm going to think about it. Still got a little bit of time here, but if you can think of anything that would be great to ask, we as a community should just come together, and feel free to just, he's openly, requesting input here. So go to John Deaton's page if you care to, and submit your question. And if he likes it, he'll pass it along. All right. Now into, here we go. Zakhanov case. Ripple refuses to disclose SEC settlement documents. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission's SEC lawsuit against Ripple Labs is not the only legal action the company is currently facing. That's because Ripple's so popular, man. I'll tell you what, you get big enough as a company, everybody and their grandma's gonna sue you. That's just it's like part of the life cycle of a company if you experience growth. But anyway, the lead plaintiff in the Zakhanov versus Ripple Labs class action lawsuit filed a motion about 2 weeks ago demanding the release of all documents from January 2015 onward in which Ripple communicated with the SEC. The motion included all communications from past settlements, as well as documents in the form of emails, text messages, Slack, or other instant messenger messages. And I covered that when it happened at the time. And it's just interesting because there have been so many different suits, and a number of them have actually consolidated into one suit. And I don't remember all the specifics, but I think it's the case. Maybe it's not the case. There were a bunch of, there's that, what's the other guy? The Bradley Sostek guy that's claiming that that Ripple sold them unregistered securities, even though there was no direct interaction. I know, facepalm. Anyway, I believe that there were like 2 or 3 different suits going on, and those ended up congealing together and becoming one suit. And I can't remember if the Zakhanov one, I think it's separate from that, actually. I was going to say maybe it could have become part of that one, but maybe it's just separate. Either way, there's been so much legal action over the last few years, which frankly isn't too terribly surprising. Anyway, then they have this little subheading in the article, Ripple calls for swift dismissal of motion. A document published on Court Listener now reveals that Ripple is opposing this motion and the release of further documents for 5 reasons. As Ripple Labs' legal representation claims, the plaintiffs have been made substantial document productions over the past 2 months that the SEC has received in equal measure during the multi-year investigation. Here's a quote. The bulk of the productions consist of documents that defendants previously provided to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission in response to voluntary requests during a multi-year investigation by the SEC staff into the very same question that lies at the heart of this lawsuit, whether Ripple's distributions of XRP constitute investment contracts under SEC versus W.J. Howey. And that is the core issue, so, I mean, that part is true. But the piece continues. Further, Ripple's legal representation states, which will certainly be relevant to the SEC's litigation, that the SEC staff demanded numerous categories of documents and asked countless questions about Ripple's business. In response, Ripple submitted more than 40 productions consisting of tens of thousands of documents and hundreds of thousands of pages. All of these documents were produced to the plaintiffs in the Zakhanov case. And now here's another quote. Defendants substantially completed their production to plaintiff of SEC investigation materials on December 16, 2020, with some small supplemental productions that followed. Shortly thereafter, plaintiff filed the instant motion to compel, escalating to the court a number of requests that should be swiftly denied. And then the piece continues. Moreover, the counsel for Ripple Labs also state that defendants should not be compelled to produce all emails between their outside counsel and SEC staff because the request is, quote, overbroad, burdensome, and not proportional to the needs of the case. And you would expect that, you'd expect that response, wouldn't you? I mean, why would you not? And frankly, it's clear, and I don't blame Ripple for doing this because, like, this to me, this is always just reeked of the Zakhanov case and the Sostek case. It just reeks of just people that are disingenuous and it's just trying to grab money, and I'd say immorally. It's like, there's no way that a rational person could believe that they were purchasing a security. If they're that uninformed, it's their own damn fault. It's a decentralized cryptocurrency. I did my research and I knew what I was purchasing before I bought it. And I had a lot to learn still, but I knew that. Holy hell, guys. So, yeah, it's kind of disgusting that these people are doing this. I don't blame Ripple, whatever they want to do to string this along or whatever. I just don't even care because it's impossible for me to respect people that I don't believe are operating in good faith. And I don't believe that a rational actor could believe it's the case that, especially these guys that bought tiny quantities of XRP and they think that Ripple owes them something. It doesn't pass the smell test. It really doesn't. I don't know what all the motivating factors are, but it just does not pass the smell test for me. But I'll go ahead and wrap up there. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.